Welcome to ITIL Foundation Fundamentals Session 4, Introducing Service Operations. In this section, we're going to be looking at the service operations phase of the life cycle, learning a little bit about some of its core concepts, and looking at some of the processes that are involved in this phase of the life cycle. So service operations is where the services are actually delivered. It's where the day-to-day of IT actually takes place. So we've got users that are using the services. We've got them potentially calling into the service desk. We've got them trying to run their business processes using the facilities that we are making available to them as a service provider. In that event, hopefully, we're actually going to be delivering value to them by providing the technology and the systems that make up those services. And that's a really key point because it's the only place inside the life cycle where the customer is actually deriving value from the services that we're providing. It's also worth remembering at this point that service operations can only actually deliver value in the event that service strategy and design and transition have all actually done their jobs properly. Otherwise, operations is going to be left with a service that can't deliver value, that's not properly understood, and is potentially made up of inadequate technology. Let's have a look at a typical conversation that might take place between our two players in this little scenario, the user of the service and the service desk. The service desk is the single point of contact for the users of the IT services. They are responsible for communications both coming into IT and going out of IT as well. And they own all incidents and requests. So if there's a break in service, or if somebody wants a new laptop or some software installed, then the service desk ideally will be that first and single point of contact to get that into the IT department. Let's have a look at what sort of conversation might take place here. So we've got a user of the service that's got a computer that won't do what they need it to do. So we don't know what that is at the moment. And so the service desk is saying, can you give me some more information about that, please, so that they can log the incident. When we've got a user that's got a computer that won't do what they need it to do, then they've got a loss of or a degradation to an IT service. And so quite rightly, the service desk is going to say, I can't answer your question from that very limited information. On the other hand, hopefully, if that's fixed, then the user will go away and be able to be productive. However, in this case, we've got a user that seems to be slightly angry, saying it's doing it again. So previously, we've probably had a workaround put in place, and that's something we'll talk about in a moment. However, because it's happening again, the user's saying, I don't want to see this again. In which case, the service desk is going to take that information and is going to look to escalate that to one of the other functions. Now, functions are groups of people that contribute to the delivery of IT services. Service desk is a function, but so is the IT operations, technical management, and applications management functions, as ITIL describes them. IT ops keep the lights on and do the day-to-day of IT. Technical and applications management are more deeply knowledgeable in their respective areas of infrastructure and software. So the service desk, having been asked to deal with a recurring incident, is now going to ask those functions, can we look at the root cause of this, please? Let's see if we can stop this from happening again. And probably technical management or applications management here are saying they're going to raise a problem record to see if they can resolve it. So where the incident was the break in service as seen from the customer, we're now going to raise a problem record, and the problem is the underlying cause of one or more incidents. An incident is not a problem, and a problem is not an incident. They're separate things. The incident is the effect, the problem is the cause, and we manage them separately in ITIL in order to make sure that we can properly prioritize and resolve issues to service rather than necessarily worrying about trying to solve every problem and put in a full fix for absolutely everything where we may not need to do so. In this case, the member of applications management or technical management has raised a known error. A known error is a problem which we actually have a workaround for. The workaround is a means by which we can restore service to the user, even if we don't actually know what the underlying cause is, or even if we haven't implemented a full fix. So because we've now got that workaround for the incident, service desk can now go back to the customer and say, we've got a workaround which will actually allow you to get going again, and we're going to look at the root cause. Hopefully, the user of the service won't see that incident again, but that doesn't mean that they won't call the service desk again. In this case, the user's now ringing up, hopefully because they've had great service from the service desk in the past. And the service desk is very much the shop window for IT. And they're saying now, I'd like a new toner cartridge for my printer. They're also paying the service desk a compliment, saying they think they do a great job. And that's something else which we would do if we were lodging a request. In this case, the service desk is saying, well, you could go through self-service. And that's something which ITIL is very keen on, self-service, using an intranet or using a catalogue where users can select what they require for themselves. But in this case, the service desk is saying, I can get onto that for you. I'll get onto stores because they're the people that are actually going to fulfill your request. In this case, folks, there is no break in service. Note, a request is please can I have rather than my computer doesn't work. It's a very different type of conversation around a service request. Supporting the operations phase, we have 5 processes in total. And 3 of those processes we've already seen: incident management, problem management, and request fulfillment. The other 2 processes, access management and event management, are tied in to, in the case of access management, request fulfillment, and in the case of event management, incident management and problem management. They're not sub-processes, but they're very closely aligned with the ones we've already seen. Let's have a look at some one-liners to help remember what these processes do. So incident management's main aim is to get the user working as quickly as possible and to restore service as quickly as possible. Problem management's job is primarily to produce workarounds and to do the root cause analysis with a view to trying to understand what a full fix might look like if we don't want to see those incidents again and again and again. Both incident and problem management deal with breaks in service, where request fulfillment is simply trying to deal with those requests. Those, can I have a new toner cartridge? Those, can I have a new printer or some software installed? Requests that come in from users. Not necessarily dealt with on the service desk per se. ITIL's very keen that we do automation and self-service around requests. Some requests might be to do with gaining access to services and may require identity to be verified to see whether people are who they say they are, or whether, as part of the security policy, they're entitled to those permissions. This is where the access management process comes in. And they basically do what another process called information security management tells it to do. Giving out identity cards, photo cards, putting ticks in boxes where file permissions are needed. It's very much the remit of access management. Event management seeks to see issues before they actually arrive. Its job is to see a disk failing before it fails so that we can program in preventative maintenance. An event is generally something happens which we've decided it would be really useful and important for us to know in case we need to take action about it. Put all of these processes together, and you've got a set of processes that are very much about maintaining the status quo and delivering value to the customer. These processes are run by people. People are not processes, and processes are not people. But processes can't be run without having people with the appropriate skills. And that's where functions come in. We've got 4 functions which are described and defined within the operations phase. The first of which we've already seen being the service desk, the single point of contact with the customer, responsible for communication both into IT and out of IT with regard to what's happening with the delivery of IT services. Operations management monitor and maintain the technology and systems that actually deliver those services in the live environment, running the backups, changing tapes, running print jobs, keeping tabs on the operations bridge. So that's the various consoles and monitoring tools that we've got that help us understand what's going on with IT services, is all within operations management's remit. Technical management have got a deeper level of expertise around hardware, networking, the infrastructure components, and the operating systems that we rely on in order to deliver IT services. Whereas applications management, also a more deeply technical and knowledgeable function, worry about the software applications that run on top of the infrastructure. Technical management and applications management are likely to get involved in solving problems when they've been escalated from the service desk or from operations management, where there may not be enough knowledge or enough expertise to recognize that a workaround can be found or where one exists. In summary, the operations phase is where we do the day to day of the delivery. It deals with managing and maintaining the services, but it's not a decision making process because it relies on the other phases of the life cycle, such as service strategy, service design, and service transition, that say what we're going to do, what technology we need to do them, and build and test and deploy those services. Operations is on the receiving end of those activities. Ultimately, we want to make sure that we've got the right functions, right people, and skills in place. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to deliver those IT services. And most importantly, operations will fail in its stated mission, which is to deliver value to the customer by running those IT services.